This is where I first came across Mike Mentzer's work. Muscle Builder and Power, April 1976. And I know what appealed to me at the time is that he was claiming to work out for an hour and a half, 3 times a week, when everybody else in these magazines was doing that in one day, every day. And part of his explanation was that he emphasized control and effort for every set, as opposed to going through the motions and doing set after set of exercise after exercise just to pump. Now again, with 50 years of hindsight and easier access to anatomy and biomechanics material, I wouldn't do these exactly as written, but with a few tweaks, I still like the general approach. So in the contraction control article, he writes, I start out with preacher bench curls using a fairly wide grip with my elbows in, palms out. Now, without saying it, he's referring to the carrying angle at the elbow. As in this drawing from Brunstrom's clinical kinesiology, the angle at the elbow isn't 90 degrees. When your elbow bends, it comes towards your mouth. So by putting your elbows in close, he minimized the strain on his wrists and elbows. He also says, after that I go to seated concentration curls. I supinate my hand at the peak of flexion. Also, you can find that in the biomechanics textbooks. Again, from Brunstrom's clinical kinesiology, the biceps acts most effectively as a supinator when the elbow is flexed at an angle of about 90 degrees. So far 2 for 2. Then when writing about the triceps, he says with triceps pushdowns, straightening the elbow gets the outer head, while pushing down gets the inner head. And my favorite, I follow these with parallel dips. I dip deep as far as I can go without tearing out my shoulders. Thanks for that one, Mike. 2 out of 4, not too bad. Now this routine, plotted out, preacher bench curls, 8 to 10 reps to failure, 3 sets. Concentration curls, 8 to 10 to failure for 2. Triceps press downs, 8 to 10 for 3. Dips, 8 to 10 to failure for 2. Now, about a year or so after that, came the fail-safe arm routine, which isn't tremendously different in terms of the exercises he prefers. He does add in some pre-exhaustion. In this one, he brings up, though, adding hammer curls, or what he labels as reverse dumbbell curls. Arnold opened everyone's eyes to what complete arm development is really all about with his double biceps back shot. The 2 huge lumps on his arms between his biceps and triceps are the brachialis muscles. And as it happens, as this card from the Kaplan Medical flashcard shows, that's probably correct. That probably is the brachialis muscle Mentzer was seeing. Now, whether you actually have to do a separate exercise for the brachialis, that's a little questionable. Because again, from clinical kinesiology, the brachialis is the least controversial of the flexors of the elbow. It's uninfluenced by the position of the forearm. It's always active as an elbow flexor with or without a load, and whether the motion is rapid or slow. So it doesn't appear that you need to do a specific exercise for the brachialis. The hammer curls, or as Mentzer calls them, reverse dumbbell curls, is useful for the brachioradialis of the forearm. But as you see, he did get away from that in later routines. Now, after the series of fail-safe articles and another series of training articles for Weider, he came up with the heavy-duty booklets, heavy-duty arms. And he adds a bit more pre-exhaustion, curls to chin-ups, followed by 2 sets of preacher curls, and triceps press downs to dips, followed by French presses. And also he mentions under anatomy and function, he repeats the criticism of the easy curl bar is actually counterproductive in working the biceps, as it causes the hands to be placed away from the supine towards a prone position. I respectfully come to disagree with that. Again, 50 years of hindsight and easier access to anatomy and biomechanics. In Brunstrom's clinical kinesiology, it says, as far as muscle recruitment, that with increasing speed and increasing load, the biceps works also when the forearm is pronated. The body recruits the biggest muscle in the chain if the load is heavy enough. In other words, any elbow flexion that's loaded heavy enough will recruit the biceps whether you're supinated or not. Another point, simply placing the hand in supination isn't enough. The resistance actually has to oppose supination, as in a dumbbell concentration curl, as Mentzer mentioned earlier. Third point, the easy curl bar is easier on your elbows and wrists because it takes you out of the carrying angle, which I explain at length on pages 240 and 241 of Joint Friendly Fitness. If you notice in his routines, he started to get away from dumbbell work and more towards just straight arm flexion. Now, here's the thing. If you want big upper arms, you don't have to supinate if you're doing your elbow flexion exercises heavy enough. On the other hand, if you want to keep the supinating function, say you have a ruptured biceps on one side and a repaired biceps on the other side, then you do have to include a dumbbell curl in which you supinate when your elbows are about 90 degrees. Now, this last routine comes from 3 more reps, and I'm including it just for completeness because it does seem a bit excessive. So, 3 more reps, Mentzer on the cover, and page 165 and 166. 3 cycles of Nautilus triceps to dips, and 3 cycles of barbell curl, concentration curl, and preacher bench curls. 9 sets for his biceps. And actually in the text, he elaborates and he repeats. First for his biceps, Scott curl, bent over concentration curl, and barbell curl. Just 2 cycles of the 3 movements indicate what I go through with each arm workout. Now, compared to every other routine in this book, that's brief. But compared to everything else he wrote, it seems a little excessive. But just for completeness. In general, always a maximum number of positive reps. The number of forced, cheat, or negative reps, that recommendation varies article to article. But I think, and keep in mind, this is all from his competitive heyday. I think he ended up with doing negatives once a week, but at least going to positive failure each workout. And also, if you notice, he had a fairly vanilla set of exercise choices. He didn't do any kind of exotic kickbacks or over-the-head curls. It's all pretty much stuff you can do in a home gym or a modestly equipped gym.